Namam karmani limpanti name karma phale spruha. Iti mam yo bijanati karma bhirna sabhadyate. Here it was the Lord is actually telling Arjuna that he himself as an avatar or as a person who has the supreme deity, who does all this work, all this act of creation, upholding creation, sustenance, and all that. So, but by doing all these actions, then he should also get the results of karma. So, good result or bad results, both are like a bondage, right? As Swami Vivekananda used to say, chains of gold or chains of iron, both will bind you. So similarly, the Lord, by his good actions also, whatever actions he is doing, will be bound. But he says, Namam karmani dimpante. I am not tainted. I am not bound. Actions will not taint me. Name karma phale spruha. The results. I'm not. If I do this, I should get this result. So that way I'm not bound. One who knows me thus is not bound by action. So we looked at this last time. So from that perspective, contemplation. Do I realize the importance of doing my duties without leaving any trace of the imprint of those actions in my mind? So the first thing is the actions leave an imprint on the mind. So this is called a samskara, we say, right? Every action you do leaves an impression. You attend this class, it will leave you an impression. You go listen to some, rock music, that will also leave you an impression. So all that, everything will leave an impression. So, but how can we act without leaving an impression? So this is the secret of karma yoga. How do we do anything, whatever actions in the world? How can we do that? So we have to ask ourselves, do I understand that principle, which is the principle of karma yoga? What does it mean to me to be free from the effects of any actions I do? So how can I be free from the effects of action? Anything I do will have an effect. Like if I hit somebody, they may hit me back or they may do something back to me. So there will be a result. So, what does it mean to be free from the effects? Do I harbor a desire for personal gratification from my action? So, this is one of the key aspects, like everything we do, we expect something in return. So, this is where, the bondage in action is happening. Every action I do, I'm expecting that some kind of result is there, some gratification is there. So, where when we come to this, the mere acting for the sake of action, this is the first step, right? But if we cannot practice it, then we should actually be vigilant. The nature of desire I have, is it a good desire or it is a unhealthy desire? Or is a trap of seeking personal gratification? So, for most people in the world, they don't see this as a problem. People who don't have knowledge of karma yoga, of the Gita, they don't see this as a problem, that if I have personal gratification, I need this, I need that, that is when I do. So that is okay. That is how everybody sees life. I need this, that is why I'm doing it. What else? Why else will I do it? So this is a where, as long as you have that, then you're bound in that cycle of samsara. You need a result, and that result will actually create another desire, or it will create an aversion, and then you will keep acting based on that desire, that aversion, and the cycle will go on and on and on. So if I don't see this, if I don't see how the people of the world see, and I don't see the defect in that, then I will remain trapped. Okay, so this is the understanding from Manana, contemplation we all should do. Now the fourth chapter, this chapter is establishing the key principles of wisdom based on action. So as we have studied this before, there is first the bondage we are in is the bondage of karma. We are all caught, and all darshanas, Indian philosophies, even the Astika and the Nastika darshans, they all agree that we are all bound because of karma. Otherwise, there's no logical explanation. Why is it that I am born with certain privileges and certain lack of privileges, and somebody else is born with something, and somebody else has so much weakness, strength, and all that. So the law of karma. So, but how did this action come about? So this action came about because I had certain desires, or I had certain aversions also, we can say. Based on our aversions and desire, I acted, and that action has created bondage, karma. So karma bandhana. So where has the karma bandhana come from? It has come from karma. This is also the second noble truth of Buddha. He says that, the first noble truth he says is life is suffering. Why is there suffering? Suffering is because of Trishna. Trishna means desire, craving. Uh, this has brought us into suffering. So, this point now, where did desire come from? Why is there that desire is there? So, we discussed this. Karma has come because of karma. Huh? Karma has come because of what? Why has this desire come from? Has the desire come just because we saw that somebody else has something and I don't have? Or is there some deeper thing? Philosophically, what is the root of desire? Anybody?
Is it vasanas, Swamiji?
No,
Which
vasanas itself is a desire. It is a desire carrying forward.
Avidya.
Avidya, so avidya is the root, avidya kama karma. So this is the fundamental thing. When we say avidya, ignorance, we are talking of ignorance of our true nature, who we really are. We are already that pure Atma, which is already fulfilled, which is already complete. Purna, it is Purna, it is Nitya, it is Shuddha, it is pure, it is complete, and it is Ananda. It is already blissful, but we have lost that reality of who we are. So then, what we are seeking worldly desires to satisfy us, because that inner self, the inner Atma, which is complete, we have lost touch with that. And why? That is that ignorance caused by Maya, or ignorance caused by we can say by our own vasanas and all that. We have come across to that ignorance. So now this has created this karma bandhana. So now these shlokas, now we will look at from shloka 16 on 15 to about 24, you can say 16 to 24. These shlokas are going to tell us the higher understanding, the knowledge of action, the higher kind of functioning between all our actions in the world, the nature of our actions, and how these actions without knowledge lead us to ignorance. So it is this coming shlokas will set us one important foundation, that it will lay the foundation for appreciating knowledge. So once we have understood the basis of karma, and we are able to negate karma, akarma, or negation of karma. So the karma has already been imposed on us, unconsciously on this is like a non-deliberate superimposition. We didn't choose it, but we are bound in karma. Now, because I'm having suffering, I say I don't want this karma. But the thing is, we didn't choose. We had a choice, and that time we didn't exercise it. But why didn't we exercise it? Because we didn't have knowledge. So we got ourselves bound in the suffering. And now the thing is, we cannot directly unbind at that level. So we have to free us from the level of knowledge. So the first level of knowledge here is going to be the knowledge of how to free ourselves from the bondage of karma. And of course, it will come back to that supreme knowledge of self. But again, it starts with this. So this is a kind of adhyaropa where, in the Shastras, first we are doing wrong actions. We are doing actions based on our desires. So we are told to do right actions. So this is adhyaropa. When we were doing wrong actions, we didn't have knowledge. So we are asked to do right actions. But right actions itself will not free us. So the state of actionlessness is a negation that will be done. So today's shloka is a bit profound. So all of you try your best to focus and understand some key points are there. Also from the Bhashya it will come. Because it's a very important shloka we will cover. And now first we will chant the shloka, and the 18th shloka is very important. And based on that, we will look at the Bhashya for that. Okay, so 14, shloka number 15. We will chant 15, 16, 17. 15th we actually did. We looked at it briefly. But anyway, we'll start with the 15th and we will go until 18. Okay, so please, you may repeat after me. Evam jnatva kritam karma
Evam
एवं
jnatva
ज्ञात्वा
kritam
कृतं
karma
कर्म
purvairapi mumukshubhihi
purvairapi
पूर्वैरपि
mumukshubhihi
मुमुक्षुभिः
kuru karmaiva tasmat tvam
kuru
कुरु
karmaiva
कर्मैव तस्मात्
tasmatvam
त्वम्
purvaih purvataram kritam
purvai
पूर्वैः पूर्वतरं कृतं
kim karma kimakarmeti
kim
किं
karma
कर्म
kimakarmeti
किमकर्मेति
kavayopyatra mohitaha
kavayopyatra
कवयोऽप्यत्र मोहिताः
mohitaha
tatte karma pravakshyami
tatte
तत्ते
karma
कर्म
pravakshyami
प्रवक्ष्यामि
यज्ञात्वा मोक्ष्यसे शुभात्
यज्ञात्वा
यज्ञात्वा
मोक्ष्यसे
मोक्ष्यसे
शुभात्
शुभात्
कर्मणो ह्यपि बोधव्यम्
कर्मणो
कर्मणो
ह्यपि
ह्यपि बोद्धव्यम्
बोधव्यं च विकर्मणः
बोधव्यं
बोद्धव्यं च
विकर्मणः
विकर्मणः
अकर्मणश्च बोधव्यम्
अकर्मणश्च
बोधव्यम्
बोद्धव्यम्
गहना कर्मणो गतिः
गहना
गहना
कर्मणो
कर्मणो गतिः
कर्मण्यकर्म यः पश्येत्
कर्मण्यकर्म
कर्मण्यकर्म
यः
यः
पश्येत्
पश्येत्
अकर्मणि च कर्म यः
अकर्मणि च
अकर्मणि च
कर्म यः
कर्म यः
स बुद्धिमान् मनुष्येषु
स
स
बुद्धिमान्
बुद्धिमान्
मनुष्येषु
मनुष्येषु
स युक्तः कृत्स्न कर्म कृत
स
युक्तः
युक्तकृत्स्नकर्मकृत
कृतकर्मकृत्
Okay, so this started with this thing where the Lord told in the last class we looked at evam jnatva kritam karma. So having known this, as it was already mentioned in that 14th shloka, that the Lord said you should not be tainted by karma. That is the first level of knowledge. How do we act without being tainted by the actions we do? Meaning being bound by the actions we do. So, so knowing this method, do actions as the previous ancestors did, like all these kings. There was a king Janaka who was a king, and yet he was supposed to be self-realized. So he was acting without any kind of a bondage. He was doing his actions. So similarly, you should do these actions based on how it is taught in the parampara, in that shastra, and those who follow this parampara. Kuru karmaitvi tasmatva. Purvataram kruha. You should do as they did in the former times. Meaning, and Shankaracharya says, not as it is being done now. Meaning, at his time he mentioned, means even now it is even people have lost that ability. So, where people were acting based on just the sense of action without having that bondage, without seeking the desires for results, bhoktrutva, renouncing that bhoktrutva. So that having said, now he starts a very profound discussion on these three shlokas. Together we will have to see, because the points that will come in these three shlokas are very profound. So kim karma, kim akarmeti. So two things, karma and akarma. There are two things. Karma means action, doing one's action. Akarma means not doing one's action. So performance of action, non-performance of actions. What is performance of action? What is a non-performance of actions? Kavayopyatra mohitaha. This has been a topic of confusion or a delusion for even wise people. Kavayo literally means poets, but here it means people who have that foresight, rishis who see this. Even they are confused based on the teachings in the Shastra. We have all this karma kanda, jnana kanda, upasana kanda. So based on that, people are not sure. Sometimes we also know, right? Ashrams, there will be sometimes people will give seva, and then there will be also, if you do just work alone, that is not going to free you also, right? So then people will realize I have to also do some sadhana, and then if they do sadhana, then they will not sometimes do any seva. So all this is where confusion lies. What is the thing to do? What is the right thing to do, and what is the thing not to do? Action, inaction, karma, akarma. And this, the Lord says, I shall explain to you the nature of then. Pravakshyami. Yet jnatva mokshase shubhat. Knowing this, you will be freed from the evil. Ashubhat. You will be freed from the evil of samsara. So this knowledge will free you from that samsara. Literally, what Lord means is, you will not engage yourself in actions that will keep you in bondage. So the knowledge of action will be given here. Karmano hi api bodhavyam. You should understand the nature of action. And then he brings one more term here. Already we were trying to figure out these two terms, action and inactions. Now he brings one more term called wrong action. Bodhavyancha vikarmana. Vikarmana has come now. So first there was action, inaction. Now there is wrong action. Vikarmana has come. Akarmanascha bodhavyam gahana karmano gatihi. So this path of action, inaction, wrong action, all this understanding is very difficult, very complex. By yourself, it is very difficult. We all try to find out, and that is why we need all the shastras, the advice of gurus and all, right? Because by ourselves, we cannot figure this out. Now comes this mantra, and it's a long discussion on this in the Bhashya. Karmanya, akarmanya karma yaf pashyet. In the karma, akarma, one who seeks inaction in action. In that action, one who sees inaction. Karmani, akarmana, yaf pashyet. One who can see that, meaning one who can behold the true reality of this action and inaction. Akarmani cha karmayaha. So this is a very, what you call like a convoluting word. Sometimes these kind of things keep coming. We will wonder why they use this kind of terminologies. Because one time it is spoken at the level of higher reality, one time it is spoken at the level of this transactional reality, or sometimes in this, as in this shloka, it is pointing to this higher reality through negating both of the extremes, both of the opposites. So he who says he sees inaction in action and action in inaction. So there's always like tongue twister, So, and what is this kind of person? Sa buddhiman manushyeshu. Among men, he is wise. People, buddhiman means one who has intellect. He has intellect among men. But all men means men and women are known for having intellect. That is how they are different from animals, right? But yet, here he is saying he is wise among men, meaning he has that real knowledge, that knowledge of self, the knowledge of supreme reality. Not just that, sayuktaha, kritsna karmakrit. He is a true yogi and he is a true performer of all actions, meaning he has completed all actions that are to be done. So this shloka especially is a long bhashya is there. So we will not be able to do the whole bhashya, but I will just summarize the points here. So the first thing the Lord here, Shankaracharya mentions this. He comes with an objection. Objection meaning somebody who is objecting, and he will himself write the objection, but based on what people have told, and then he will prove that. He says, what is meant by this contradictory statement? One, he who finds action, inaction, 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 inaction. For action cannot become inaction, nor inaction action. Then how can a witness have such an incongruous perception? No? What is this? Why is this seemingly such a foolish statement that the Lord is making? So now he defends that. He says that there is no incongruity there. So he comes back to this. So if we look at it, we have to remember this. First thing is he who sees inaction in action, meaning something is happening. Like, for example, there is a movie going on. But you're seeing that the movie is going on. There's a lot of action happening in that movie. But if you realize that really nothing is happening there, meaning that is all happening on that screen, but at this moment, is there anything happening? Nothing is happening. And at the same time, in that movie screen, we may see that there is a lot of, things that is happening in there. But I mean, it doesn't seem in the reality of that is the screens by itself, they are not doing anything. The screen and all is just there, but on that all this projection is coming, so there is that screen itself is inactive, but it seems like that in that screen that lot of things is happening, right? So so a person who sees that, who is able to see this thing, he understands the deeper reality. Now when we talk about actions, I just want to mention, in the general Vedic thing, in the Vedas, action means karmas, which is related to yajnas, homas, and a lot of ritual based actions. But here in Gita, when the Lord talks about action, especially here, he's talk of general actions, actions you do in the world. Like, in this case, there's a clear thing what is wrong action and what is right action. Like killing somebody from the Vedic point or the Shaini Shastra's point is a wrong action. It is Nishiddha karma. And doing your duties or helping somebody, it is good action, right action. There's nothing wrong with that. So but the problem here has come because Arjuna's duty involves killing, meaning his duty in the war involves that he'll have to kill somebody. So what is not supposed to be done is what he's being asked to do, right? So this is where the whole confusion is coming. Okay, so now this I'll just try to summarize this bhashya here. So what is this inaction? So when we say inaction, it means not doing something. So now all of you are sitting, right? So does that mean that you're not doing something? Similarly, if somebody is standing still, he's not moving. Does that mean that that person is not doing anything? So you all know very well, even just to sit in the class, it takes effort. Huh? It is an effort to sit for 1 hour in the class. Huh? Similarly, if you're going to stand for an hour, huh, it may seem like you're not moving, but in that inaction, there is also like an action involved. Huh? So, so in that sense, how can but in this context, if we take it like sitting still is inaction and walking is action, so how can that sitting still be walking, and how can that walking be sitting still? So this is how the word has come, right? So here in this inaction, that we are still putting that effort. Huh? So in doing any action, I am involved in putting that effort. There is a me involved, huh? And this is what the whole problem is. Hmm? So as long as action is happening, then it's no problem. But the problem is if somebody asks you, what are you doing? You're going to tell them, I'm sitting. Hmm? So even if a person is sitting with closed eyes, so there was some lazy person of a lazy son of a father. Huh? So that father's friend asked him, is your son still doing nothing? Hmm? So then that father said, no, now he has learned to do meditation. Huh? So what does he do in meditation? He closes his eyes and sits. So that person said, then he's doing nothing. So this is again, So this is what our idea, right? So what is it? Because I am doing something, right? I am meditating. I am listening to the class. I am sitting. So there is an I involved. There is a me involved. Huh? What is this me? Huh? So this is what we are saying. This is the kartrutva buddhi is there. There is a sense of doer. There is a sense of karta. Huh? And so as long as there is a sense of karta, every action will have a reaction. There is a cause and an effect. So I do this and I will enjoy the result of that. So where there is kartrutva, there is bhoktrutva. So we do something, we expect the result of that. And this is a natural course of life. All of us, if I do something, I'm expecting the result of that. Why? Because there is a sense of an independent doership. Hmm? So in fact, this is the whole thing on how grammar is based on. There is always a subject. I am doing this. I am going there. So we're always trying to look for the subject in every grammatical analysis, right? Even in a Sanskrit, if you look at it, the first singular case, the Pratama Karaka, uh, that starts with that independent, that doer, Saha, him, me, them, or whatever. Then based on that first, the second will come, the object will come. The second case will come based on the first. And the third will come based on these two, the instrument cause. So similarly, every grammar, it is based on that. All our language of discussion, everything is based on this. So our thinking also is based on that. Either because of this, it influences our thinking, or there's a deeper sense of doer, which influences everything. Now, the point that Shankaracharya brings in the whole of this Bhashya is how to understand this shloka is, if you really understand this shloka, is you are mistaking the doer for non-doer. Huh? Or I put it other way, is that non-doer is being mistaken for being a doer. How is this possible? That pure consciousness, that pure nature of Atma is never doing anything. So, but what has happened is we have non-deliberately, this is a non-conscious adhyaropa that has happened. Without our choice, this has happened. What? That we have taken on this sense of doership. And when you understand this, when we understand that I am not doing that any action, then in that action there is non-doing of action. So this is the fundamental way to understand this shloka. in the doing of that action, there is a non-doer. If you realize yourself as that Atma, and has a non-doer of action, meaning in that non-doing of any action, if an unrealized for an unrealized person, there is a doer. Why? Because even if he says, I'm not doing anything, there is still doing of that for that person. So this is the opposite, and in this he gives a lot of examples. The examples is based on that Atma is akarta. So meaning that all the things that is happening is a karya karana sangata, meaning that the body, mind, and all these instruments come together. It's like a chariot. The chariot has these wheels and this rider and this steering wheel if it's a car, engine and all that, right? So all that works together and it keeps moving. So can we say that it is all moving because there is a driver or because there is an engine? No, it just is a set of things that has come together and it starts moving. So here in the same way, if Atma is the akarta, so there is a in all those things, when things have come together, what happens is generally when things come together, if you don't do something, also there is a doing in terms of prakriti, meaning not doing something, there is a regression. If you're not as I say, right, if you're not progressing, you're regressing. So this is the rule of prakriti. So there is still doing, meaning if you're not progressing, if you're not doing anything, then that means you are regressing. This own with our own bodies, we know, those of us who are a little older, if you don't keep your body active, keep doing some exercise, something, then it will start, it will getting even more entropy. It will start getting even worse because it is put together by parts. So all these things, parts are coming together, but Atma doesn't have any parts. The consciousness is a pure consciousness which doesn't have any parts. So by itself, it doesn't need anything for it to be there, or nor does it need to go through this process of progression and regression. So in that Atma itself, there is no progress, nor there is stillness, nor there is regression. We say for our language, we say pravritti and nivritti. Pravritti means progress. Nivritti means like withdrawal. But both this pravritti and nivritti is based on a karta, based on a doer. So what is this true seeing? This true seeing is seeing this akarta in both doing and non-doing. So in this sense, what happens? This is how the wheel of samsara is broken. See, a normal, I will now mention this other point, which is also discussed in the Bhashya. In the Purva Mimamsa, there is a Purva Mimamsa darshan, which is one of the darshans which establishes this karma kanda of Vedas. So they say that in our Vedic thing, there are mainly four kinds of karmas. We can say five, but four mainly for our discussion. So anybody remembers? What are the 4 or 5 karmas mentioned in the Vedas?
Is it the Nitya,
Yeah,
Naimittika, Kamya,
correct. So there's a
Nishiddha,
Nitya, Naimittika, Kamya karma, and then Nishiddha karma, and then there's a Prayaschitta karma. Nitya, Naimittika karma means your duties you have to do. Daily duties, occasional duties, which you have to do. From that Vedic thing, it is doing certain everyday rituals and occasional rituals. From our daily life, some duties we have to do. We have to cook food or we have to go work. And then occasional duties, maybe some family member you have to look after. So all these are duties we have to do. Nitya Naimittika. Then there's Kamya Karma. Based on desires, we will act. So these are the things that will bring us bondage, according to them. So what do you do? And then there is nishiddha karma. So some desire actions you can still do without too much problem. But there are some karmas you cannot do, like killing and all this. If you do, what happens then? There's a big penalty. The law will have penalty. Then the law of justice will, all the greater law will also give you penalty. So Nishiddha karma. So now these are now here how it is described is there is a way in which this let me just show this part. There is a part of that discussion. So, now we mention since the daily obligatory duties have no result. So, it is said that when we do nitya karma, when we are doing our daily duties, there are no results for that. You don't get good or bad. Like if you do certain things, like some special act of, helping somebody, you get some merit punya for that. But you do your daily duties, there is no punya. You don't get punya. You're just supposed to do that anyway. So this is how it is mentioned. So therefore, in the secondary sense, so here it is said that what according to some people, this is not the Shankaracharya's explanation. He's putting an objection. Some people say that if I do my duties, there is no result for that. So this action is called as inaction. This action is taken as inaction because it doesn't give me result. But if I don't do this action, if you don't do your duties, what happens? There is a result. It produces a negative result, a papa, we say, according to the Mimamsa. This is not the main Vedanta darshan, this is the Mimamsa darshan. If you don't do your duties, then there is a negative result. So that becomes what? That non-action becomes action, according to them. So this, he negates this based on 2 points, he negates this. What is that negation here? So the first one here, he's mentioning that when we do this nitya naimittika karma, this is something like not doing. Doing this will produce the result, right? So not if you do if you don't do this, then it will produce a result. What? An evil result will come out. So how can a non-action produce a result? This is one of the discussion that he has given. And then if you look at the second part of that shloka, when we looked at it, it was mentioned that the one who does this is fulfilled, meaning he is completely fulfilled. In the shloka we looked. He is a true performer of all actions, meaning all actions are completed. So if we are going by this definition of nitya naimittika karma, that will just the knowledge of this, just a knowledge of nitya naimittika karma, doing will not produce result, but not doing will produce result. This knowledge, how can it give us freedom? So this is the discussion. So if you look at also more, you can look at it today, Nastika darshans. There's all this darshanas like Buddhism and Jainism and all in India, where they believe in this law of karma, but they don't literally take this freedom from knowledge. They take action itself will produce your freedom. How? They say that, especially in Jainism, they say that if you are producing, if you're doing good actions, and if you're not doing bad actions, then you will get freedom by itself, they say. So here is where this is this thing Vedanta refutes, because if you keep on performing good actions and you stop performing bad actions, then what happens? You as a doer is still there. And as long as the doer is there, there is always the potential of doing something that will again keep you in bondage. So there is never going to be a 0 point. Even though if there is like a 0 point, very soon that 0 point will have at the background of it the seed of action, which is desire and doership. So as long as this doership is there, Just by doing your nitya naimittika karma, you will not get freedom. That is the main point that Shankaracharya says. So what it boils down to, I will try to make it simple. I think this is a long discussion, but I'm trying to do give you the full thing. So how do we overcome doership? This is the main thing, main point that is the secret. So the how to be free from action is being free from doership, because doership is what is going to lead us to bhoktrutva, enjoyership or sufferer. huh? So the key point here, the source of all this problem is doership. What we can also call is the ego. This is a more fundamental kind of thing, where how do we get rid of ego? Because it was mentioned in the other shloka also. Prakrite kriyamanani gune karmani sarvashah ahankara vimudatma kartahamiti manyate. So this had come in before. The nature, prakriti, is doing all actions based on gunas. All actions are happening by itself. But the ahankara vimudatma, one who is deluded by the ego, thinks he is the doer. Where did this come? Which chapter did this sloka come? Anybody remembers? You don't need to tell me the shloka number. At least you remember we did this, or have we are yet to do it? So it came in the third chapter. This was there in the long back, long time ago. We did the third chapter. So that time it came. So it was the 27th shloka of third chapter. Okay, there it was mentioned that the person who is deluded by ego thinks he is the doer. So as long as that notion of doership is there, there is no freedom. This is the main point. So knowing that I am not the doer, this itself is a means of surrender. So we sometimes talk about surrender, but from this teachings, surrender is not possible by ourselves. Who is going to surrender what? The ego cannot surrender itself because it doesn't have an entity. There is no entity by itself. The what we call as ego. What is the ego? So that ego is just not even a entity, like something we can say this is the ego. So this is why that Ramana Maharshi's question, who am I, is a very powerful one, because there we are trying to search for something which doesn't exist, and only when we search for it we realize that it doesn't exist. If we don't search, it is always seemingly existing. And it's a big battle to overcome that ego if we don't search for it. So this is why, like the all methods he says, surrender and all those methods, it will not work by itself, because the ego cannot surrender the ego by itself, because there is no entity like that ego. So this is where, in one of the uh, I think this is our Yoga Vasista. There is this thing mentioned about how everything is imagined by somebody. He gives an example of a person. He says, having bathed in the waters of mirage. He goes and bathes in the water of mirage and is crowned with a garland of sky flowers, like a flowers of sky. And this son of a barren woman is going armed with a bow made of hare's horn. So this is like all are like almost non-existing realities. So he's just trying to give him a garland, a sky flowers. There's no sky flowers possible. How can flowers be possible in the sky? And how can waters be possible in a mirage? There is no water there. A barren woman cannot have a son. Vandya Putra, we say. How can a barren woman have a son? And a bow made of hare's horn. A hare doesn't have a horn. So all this is how illusory the ego is. The sense of ego which we take ourselves to be, and the sense of projection of the world. All this is like so unrealistic, meaning there is no tangible reality. And that is why, Now, and this is where, our first means of search for ego. huh? Our first means of search for ego begins at the mind. Hmm? Not at the level of body, because it is not at the level of body that we have a sense of I. No, we think that at the level of body I am there because I see the body. The real sense of ego search for it starts at the mind. So in sometimes you'll also hear people say that the mind is the ego and things like that. But even in um, this Ramana Maharshi's teachings, he mentions that Manasam to Kim Margane Krite. So we start searching for the mind. Where is this mind? Naiva Manasam Marga Arjava. When you realize that the entity called mind also is not something that you can find, then you start questioning about this I. Huh? Ahamaya ahamayam kuto bhavati chinvataha aipatatyaham nija vicharanam. He says that then you start looking for where this I is. When you realize that there is no fixed entity even called mind. The mind also is like an entity that doesn't have any tangible reality. So what is happening with all this? This is called as the process of getting to a negation of this ego through knowledge. Hmm? So ego cannot be given up just by some act of surrender. Ego can only be negated through wisdom, through knowledge. Apavada, we say. So how do we do that? So for doing this, we do adhyaropa. Sometimes for doing this, we say that instead of saying I am so and so as an unconscious thing, I say I am a devotee, I am a sadhaka, I am a student. All this is a adhyaropa. These are done so that we can negate later and say there is no I at all in any way. So anyway, these are the points. But the important thing, however, is that ego, that as long as that ego is tangible, it needs the support of something. And that is why we are doing all these studies and all that. So this is where Vedanta is different from the shunyata of Buddhism. In the shunyata of Buddhism, they say nothing exists, so nothing needs to be done, kind of. Not exactly like that, but it's taken like that. So it is not the complete emptiness here we are talking about. We are saying at this vyavahara, at this relative reality, the ego needs to engage in surrender, in an attitude of surrender, and in the studies and all that, until that pointer comes back to itself. Once the pointer goes from out to back to itself, then that ego is dissolved. So this is the fundamental thing when we talk about action in inaction and inaction in action. What it is saying is that the essence of that ego is that Atma. There is no ego by itself. That Atma is projected as an ego, but that Atma is not the ego. So this is a fundamental point, that ego's essence is the Atma, but that Atma is not the ego. Similarly, we can take it that the doer which we are talking about, karta, as long as there's a sense of karta, that sense of karta is that Atma, that consciousness. But that Atma itself is not the karta. So when there is no that Atma then becomes a natural akarta. It doesn't need to do anything to become a non-doer. By itself, it will become a non-doer. Okay, so I'm trying to summarize what was a long bhashya. So this discussion was quite a long one. But yeah, anyway, if anybody has questions, you can ask. The main point takeaway in this is when we are saying action in inaction and inaction in action. The main thing we have to understand is if I'm able to act or if I'm able to refrain from action, as long as there is a sense of doership, then that thing will we will still be bound. But if there is a sense, if you are free from that sense of doership, then we can do any action. that action will not bind us. And we can also choose not to do inaction. And that non-doing of action will also not bring us any bondage. Okay, so this anybody has any comments, question, you can ask.
Swami,
Yeah.
you know what I'm thinking? For example, when I think that I don't breathe, it occurs. I don't
Yeah.
digest, it occurs.
Yeah.
I can understand that I'm not doing these things. They are
Correct.
happening. Huh? But when I think about the gunas, okay, the gunas, they make everything. Prakriti. And then I stop. I cannot understand anymore, but from where come these things? You know what I mean? This point. Okay, but what is the gunas? From where they come? And I cannot go further.
So see, that is where, this point he was trying to mention there, that even the sense of this world, of course, when we study Mandukya and all this, we understand this deeper. See, even the sense of Prakriti, the sense of world going on, the sense of bondage and all that, it is based on the sense of ignorance we have. Hmm? So once there is a sense of ignorance, then we kind of have this thing that the gunas are doing all this, actions are going on. So we all experience that. So here, when the Lord actually mentioned prakrite kriyamanani gune karmani sarvashaha, what he is saying is that you are not the doer of all this. There is the gunas by themselves will actually uh, create those actions for you. So, of course, the gunas need you in that sense of they need your body, they need your mind, they function at that level. So, it is not literally like we say that, they are all doing themselves. So, they are using these things, but even this is part of Prakriti. Even what we say, our body, our mind, and all that, right? On what the gunas are acting, even they are part of Prakriti as such. So, in that sense, it is gunas acting on the Prakriti itself. Like gunas are working in the Prakriti itself. So, all this is happening within the Prakriti. You get this sense that I am involved, or I'm in the middle of this, or I am the doer of this. So, this sense we get, is what makes us bound in this. The moment we realize that I am not at all in this whole thing, then even this sense of gunas and prakriti is gone.
This will happen naturally.
Yeah.
This
So
sense
when that
of
correct, even that when that sense of even if you take from the Sankhya darshan, it's like that, the once you see through the gunas, once you realize the gunas are doing all this, then what happens that prakriti is no longer dancing for you. You are freed from this, meaning that Purusha is freed from this. So now, in order to help us understand, he says the gunas are doing all this. But once you really understand that I am not there anywhere in this, then even that Prakriti will dissolve for you. It will not be there for you. Naturally, yes. You don't need to do anything. And this is the most important thing, that knowledge, the means of knowledge, it's a natural thing. The means of action is you have to do a lot of things. You have to see, even through the yoga, general yoga, if you take not the Patanjali yoga, you have to do a lot of actions to get siddhis, you have to become this, you have to become that, and all that. But the real means of freedom is pure knowledge. And knowledge and action are not compatible. So action happens at one sphere and knowledge is at a superior sphere. So by knowledge, that natural, as you mentioned rightly, once that knowledge comes, automatically that bondage is gone, the prakriti is gone. So this is actually very profound shloka. It will come again and again in different ways. Anybody else? Anything else? Okay. So this basically, we can see if we don't really connect to it, then we can also look at the karta as nothing but the nature of ego. So in the the we say that the karta, generally the sense of karta, it is more in the intellect, the vijnanamaya kosha we say. So this is the key thing in our intellect, is the sense of, in the buddhi, the sense of I is there. So this is I in the buddhi, means it is the ignorance which is there. So how is this karta kind of gotten rid of? Through knowledge in the intellect only. Hmm. So that ignorance or that sense of wrong knowledge is in the intellect, and the right knowledge has to come in the intellect only. So that is why knowledge is the only means through which we can be free from ego, ultimately. Knowledge or realization, we say sometimes. Okay, we'll leave it at this. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Namo Narayana Shri Krishna Arpanamastu. Okay.